I will take this time to run you through the advocacy process in Liberia as it relates to the Freedom of Information Campaign. My name is Malcolm Joseph, and I'm the director of the Center for Media Studies and Peace Building, an organization that has led the Freedom of Information or Access to Information campaign in Liberia. Well, to give you a background, the Freedom of Information law was passed by the National Legislature in Liberia and approved by the President in 2010, which is about a year ago. This was a result of 6 years of activities led by the Liberian Media Law and Policy Reform Working Group. And the Liberian Law and Policy Reform Working Group came out of an initiative as far back as 2004, when with the Partnership for Media and Conflict Prevention in West Africa made an intervention in the Liberian media landscape so as to reconstruct the media, so to speak, following several years of war in Liberia. And that partnership brought together stalwarts in the fight for freedom of expression and access to information in the world. We talk about institutions like the IFJ, Article 90, Media Foundation for West Africa, Media Rights Agenda, IMS, UNESCO, and the list goes on. Also, that partnership also developed some local partners on the ground and some initial steps. A visitation of the partnership took place in Liberia, and as a result of that, one thing that came up clearly from the various consultations that were held was the need to reform Liberia's media laws. It was clear that the laws we have on the books as it relates to the media were very old. They could not conform to the realities of the day. And so we began a process, an initial process, where 3 laws were drafted: the Freedom of Information Law, the Broadcast Regulator Act, and the Public Service Broadcaster Act. That is to transform the state broadcaster, which we call the Liberia Broadcasting System, to a public service broadcaster. Now, 4 separate consultations were held with relevant stakeholders on the process, and these consultants included civil society actors, the journalists, women organizations, international organizations, the UN system as well. And following that process, the team of lawyers was put into place, and they went ahead in drafting the law. And following the drafting of the law, several dialogues were held even at the community level, nationwide sensitization awareness, so as to buy the citizenry into the process. Now, there were several validation, two specifically validation sessions were held for stakeholders to validate the law. Additional workshops were also held to introduce local strategies and developing strategies for advocacy and lobbying. Now, in 2008, specifically the 17th of April, that was exactly about 2 weeks to World Press Freedom Day, an elaborate program was organized where the laws were submitted to the legislature. In a petitioning ceremony, we organized journalists, we organized the civil society, the student community, women organizations, and we paraded the streets of Monrovia, carrying placards, banners, and flyers, and marched up to the seat of the legislature, and simultaneously petitioned the legislature for the passage of the 3 laws. We simultaneously present, because we have a bicameral legislature, and so we presented the petition to both the House of Representatives and the House of Senate. And I can tell you the 52nd legislature, the current legislature, that submission was the first civil society-oriented bill submitted to the legislature. All other bills prior to that presentation came from either the executive branch of government. At the legislature, following the petitioning ceremony, we began the process of engaging them continuously. We provided technical support for legislative committees on publication, broadcast, and debate on the issues. Basically, when we submitted the laws, we realized that it was not realistic to drive all three of the laws simultaneously. And also, we have succeeded in buying the government support, especially the executive branch of government, into that. Under this working group that we had a Ministry of Information representing the government, as well as the Ministry of Justice. We had a national legislature on the working group, of course, the civil society, the Journalists Association as well. So we thought that we should give priority to the Freedom of Information Law. So we began, we sort of played low on the other two laws, the Broadcast Regulator Act and the Public Service Broadcaster Act, and begin the process of focusing on the FOI law, because it was clear that the government of the day supported the FOI, because there were several commitments that the government had made in 2007 or 8 at the Atlanta conference. The former Minister of Information made a commitment there that Nigeria would have been the first country in West Africa to pass an access to information law. In one of the visits of the partnership to Liberia, they met with the former speaker then of the House of Reps, who also made a commitment. He made a commitment that Liberia would have been the first. The President of the nation, Madam Sirleaf, in her State of the Nation address, also made a commitment to ensure that the Freedom of Information Law is passed. So we had all of the commitments from government, so we used that in the process of advocacy. And in our engagement, in our public debates, whether it was radio talk show or television talk show, whether it was community dialogue, whether it was focus group discussion, we used that as we pinned the government to those commitments. And they were very receptive in that direction. We also embarked upon a process of, in our advocacy, we did a lot of, we gathered 10,000 signatures, which we took to the legislature, signatures from diverse backgrounds, diverse sectors of the society. We also held lunch meetings with influential lawmakers. We did not restrict it to that because we were anticipating that when the law shall have been passed, obviously we will need the support of the executive, getting the president signed onto it. So in our engagement, while the law was still at the legislature, we also engaged our relevant cabinet officials in sort of preparing the way for the eventual signing of the law. So we have several law meetings with relevant cabinet officials as well. Of course, we embarked on text messaging campaign. We used the civil society in a process where we distributed, we succeeded in gathering all of the telephone numbers of our legislators. There are not as many as other countries, just 90. So we succeeded in getting the telephone numbers of all of them. We distributed them to various civil society actors, and we began texting them, began calling them, using our personal contacts and making sure that the law was passed. As a matter of fact, when the law got passed in the House of Representatives, I was present. As a matter of fact, when the law was read, there was a text message that I received from one of the lawmakers that said, "Is that how you want it?" I said yes, and then obviously the motion went out. And then we asked a lot of civil society visitation to the legislature in the process. There were several visits that we paid there. At one point in time, sometimes you have to change the strategy based on the trend in which things seem to be proceeding. I can recall sometime while we were engaging in the lobbying and advocacy, I recall that a statement came from the Press Union of Liberia, the Journalists Association, where some lawmakers were given a vehicle each by one of the concession companies to get the concession agreement passed. And there were condemnations from across civil society actors, and the president issued a statement in that direction. So in our engagement with them, one point in time we visited the legislature and the president was there. They said, "Oh, we're not going to talk to you guys because the president has already condemned us." So we have to rethink the strategy, and we sort of, what should I say, de-media the process. And we allow the media to take the backstage and put the civil society in the forefront to be able to buy their support into the process. That worked out very, very well in that direction. And eventually we work with various committees. We provided technical support to the various committees and the legislature, and the Freedom of Information Law was confined in a joint committee of Judiciary and Information and Broadcasting. We worked with those committees, we provided technical support, we assisted them in the organization of the public hearing, developing the topics, identifying the speakers, and what have you. And eventually, in September 2010, we succeeded in getting the law passed in the House of Representatives. And of course, it moved on to the Senate, and obviously the Senate could not be an obstacle to history making in Liberia. We all, in our engagement, we always told them that other West African countries were making progress in the direction of Ghana, Sierra Leone, and that we wanted Liberia to make a history by being the first country in West Africa to pass the law. So we pinned them onto that, and we succeeded on the 16th of September in getting the law passed. And obviously, based on prior work we have done with relevant cabinet officials in preparing the way for the signing of the law, 2 weeks after it was passed, the President signed it on September 16th, and obviously the Ministry of Foreign Affairs printed it to hand it. Now, looking at the next step, the advocacy campaign to ensure the law is applied, citizens take advantage. Currently, the body prescribed by the law to ensure compliance is yet to be set up. That is the Office of the Independent Information Commissioner. The vetting process is ongoing now, and I'm afraid that that body won't kick off functioning until next year, because the legislature will be taking its annual break either this week or next week, and the vetting process seems to be ongoing. The current pace, offender citizens may go directly to court. The intermediary body needs to be set up to test the will of the government to ensure that the FOI is applicable. Obviously, in the absence of the Office of the Independent Information Commissioner, if there is a denial, when a requester makes a request, obviously you have to go directly to court, because that intermediary body is not there. The law also provides for the appointment of information officers in the various ministries and agencies of government. That has not been done as yet. In terms of ministerial awareness, yes, it's ongoing, but it has a very slow pace. If people must use the law, they must know that the law exists, and they must be aware of what is embedded in the law to be in a position to use the law. I want to thank you very much.